Doc Rivers continues to time and time again not get it when it comes to getting. Oh! Let him play!
You bet one bone to win 19. What site do you use where you can actually bet $1?
They let you do 50-cent bets.
Oh my goodness gracious.
Yeah, literally, like he dropped Superman down like the drain, comes out, like, God damn it, Superman. I don't know, honey. I don't know where he got that from.
From Los Angeles, this is Dave in the City.
Part of the DITCOW Sports Network.
Now, here's Dave Medina.
Good evening, sports fans, and a pleasure to have you here for the big football show. Good to have you back after the Thanksgiving break. We're glad to have you with us tonight as we continue. We recap what was just a bananas weekend in college football. So glad to have you with us. We have John in Connecticut joining us on the air tonight, and Andy will be joining us in just a couple minutes. And the football contest rolls on, week 14. I mean, what can you say? Michigan finally got it done. How about it? And Auburn almost upset Alabama. You know, what a disaster that was, but kind of proof that Brian Harsin is Brian Harsin and not like somebody like Lincoln Riley, who, by the way, is heading west to Troy. How about that? So much coaching news to have as well. But you know, the NFL was crazy too in its own way. The let's not waste any more time about it. You know, folks, time to roll it back into the contest and let you know what's going on here. So much to talk about in both sports. So we got the final playoff to be revealed and the conference championships to come this weekend. Woo! Buckle up, everybody. Let's hit it. Football picks, week 14. Let's do it. All right. Here's what happened last week in the action. Now we also were off last week, so you can check out what happened in week 12 on the website. But in week 13, an enormous week for Andy in Seattle. 4-0. Give it up to Andy, making a move in the contest. John holding steady at 2-2 for week number 13. Ron was in third place at 1-3, and Dave, with the golden sombrero, 0-4. What an epic fail. And I think a couple of them weren't even close. Sharon's guest picks, much better than mine. 2-2 for the week. And that gives us these standings after 13 weeks. John, having a great year so far, 31-19 in first place. Andy, with a huge move, moving all the way up to second place. He is now 25-25 on the season. Ron is in third place at 22-27-1, and Dave is right behind. Actually, no, literally the same record, but I consider it behind because it was an 0-4 week, so I don't deserve to be in third place. 22-27-1 for Dave in the city, and guest picks are 18-30-2 on the year. Unusually bad year for the guest picks. I'm actually disappointed about that, but it's okay. I mean, you know, they can't all be great years, but all good. Again, we have John joining us, and Andy will be joining us momentarily. So let's do it. John, absolutely a pleasure. Let me make sure you're potted up. How's it going tonight?
What's going on, Dave? Good to be back. Hope everyone had a nice Thanksgiving. Hope you had a nice Thanksgiving, Dave. Yeah, just a crazy weekend of games. So I don't know where you want to start. It was just bizarre in college, pro. We have all these coaching scenarios going on too. It's just every minute you check Twitter, it's like, oh my God, it's just a huge bombshell being dropped everywhere. So yeah. Some good stuff going on right now, at least to keep ourselves entertained.
Yeah,
football. Yeah.
What a setup for the weekend too. I mean, we got all these conference championships and actually some juice. I feel like there's juice in the college championships this year because if, for example, if Alabama wins, it really changes things. If for some reason Michigan loses, I can't see it, but if it happens, that would really change things. And, just kind of you could go from there. But we're going to start with the NFL first, as we typically do. And in the NFL, just as much interesting stuff. I mean, particularly on Thursday when you had the Raiders fend off the Cowboys. I wouldn't exactly say it's a shocking win, but Definitely not what I saw coming. I got to give it up to them. But more to the point, let's get your recap of the overall action last weekend. Everything from Thursday up through Monday, where the football team held off a 2-point conversion from Seattle to cling to a victory. John, tell us about what happened last week in what was another round of wildness in the NFL.
Oh man, yeah. Thursday, I think they just threw another flag in the Dallas Raiders game.
Oh, seriously, right? I mean, come on.
Ridiculous. I mean, and you'd think too, like the rest would be in Jerry Jones's pocket, so they wouldn't throw like the Raiders were essentially playing the Carson Wentz chuck it deep and hope for a passing interference offense.
I know.
And the same guy for the Cowboys, I think Brown was his name, the cornerback. The same guy got flagged like 4 times, and that set up a number of the Las Vegas touchdowns, and those were huge plays in the game, and like almost all of them were on like 3rd and long too. It was insane. And the Raiders were just like a dead team coming into that game. So who the hell knows about anything in the NFL? Seriously.
Yeah.
I thought Dallas would. I wasn't say they're going to blow them out, but like a 10-point win, I would not have been surprised to see that. And the Raiders played phenomenal, and certainly those penalties helped. The Cowboys not having all their receivers certainly played a big role. No Lamb or Cooper, and Cedric Wilson was their leading receiver, so that was tough. That was really the only juice on Thanksgiving. I mean, I guess the Bears-Lions was close, but it was just an eyesore of a game. Like, I honestly couldn't tell you much about that one. I was not too into that. And then, of course, the Bills just destroyed the Saints, and that wasn't even a game from the start. The Saints they're just completely just crippled with their injuries. I mean, they're starting to maybe get a few guys back for the game Thursday, but not much juice in terms of the game with the juice was the Raiders and the Cowboys game. And all of a sudden, like the NFC East, I mean, all these executives have got to be like, doing a dance in their office. Like the NFC East is close again, because Dallas has dropped a few. Washington's on a hot streak. I mean, everyone loves the Eagles too, even though they just lost to the Giants. I said I called it with that one. I did have the Giants as one of my picks last week, so we'll take credit for that. But yeah, and if you look at the schedules for like all the NFC East, like they backloaded it, so like they're playing 5 of the 6 division games to end the season for all the teams. It's just crazy. So you're going to see a lot of NFC East action over the last month of this season. In terms of the games on Sunday, obviously the big one was Green Bay and the Rams, and obviously I'm a Green Bay fan, so I'm biased towards them obviously a little bit, but I did not understand how, the line opened up Green Bay -2, and by game time it was almost Rams -3, and like there was no major injuries for the Packers. Like, yeah, there was no additional injuries. Like they were still missing, obviously Jair Alexander and Zadarius Smith on defense. Bakhtiari still hasn't come back at tackle. They lost another tackle, but Rodgers was playing. Devontae Adams was playing. They even got back Aaron Jones. Rashawn Gary came back, and he had a huge pressure in the first quarter to get a fumble. So that line movement really didn't make much sense to me. I don't know. I'm guessing some sharps lost some money on that game, because for that line to move 5 points, and then the Packers, really, they won by 8, but they were in complete control that whole game. Stafford clearly, he wasn't on the injury report, but then there was these tweets about how he's not 100%, and clearly he didn't look great. I mean, they only made 2 huge plays the entire game, the pass to Beckham and the pass to Jefferson. Otherwise, it was pretty much, like I said, dominated by Green Bay. So sets up well for the Packers, honestly. They have tiebreakers now with the Rams and the Cardinals. So the only team they kind of have to worry about here for the 1 seed is the Bucs, who have a pretty easy schedule. So we'll see what happens over these next 6 weeks. And the Packers have a bye this week, so that's going to be huge for them to get some of these guys back for the stretch run. So we'll see what their team looks like in a couple weeks. The Colts and the Bucs game was the other kind of really exciting game for the 1 p.m. slate. The game turned when the Colts they had the ball up 24-14 in Bucs territory, and Carson Wentz gets strip sacked, and the Bucs take over. And then from there on, I mean, the momentum was completely changed, and the Bucs end up winning the game, even though, it was tied at the end. But you knew when the Colts scored with like a minute left or whatever, their defense was not going to stop Brady from at least getting a field goal, which would have been nice if you were a Colts backer to get a push. But Fournette runs it in the end zone, and they get the win. The Vikings-Niners game was pretty exciting, as you would expect it to be. The Vikings just play nothing but one possession game, so that was a huge game in the wild card race. San Fran is firmly in there. And then all of a sudden, it's like spinning a wheel to see which team is going to be number 7 in the NFC this week, because I guess it's Washington now for their win on Monday. It's number 7 in the NFC, which is another evidence that you really don't need a 7th playoff team at this point. But, it is what it is. Some of the other games were just kind of duds. Dave, the Steelers just look absolutely just horrendous. I cannot believe I took them against the Bengals.
I took them too. I mean,
really, Tomlin is a dog, and the Bengals already beat them. I mean, on paper, it looked like a good pick, but man, they were awful. So the funny thing is, after that game, while that game was going on and they're losing like 41-3, I said to myself, well, shit, like the Chargers almost lost to this team. Like they can't be any good. So I put a bet on Denver because, against the Chargers, because, I know the transitive property doesn't really work, but it just kind of hit me the wrong way. Like the Chargers nearly gave it up to this Pittsburgh team. So I hit a bet on Denver, but that was a disappointing game for Los Angeles. Pats keep rolling. Andy can probably touch on that as they win 6 in a row now and cover 6 in a row, I guess more importantly for bettors. And then I guess on the primetime games, I mean, Lamar Jackson throws 4 interceptions and the Browns can only score 10 points and can't take advantage of it. That was a rough job out of them to not, get that win. And it's just an ugly game. I can't figure out either of those teams. I'm probably just going to stay away from those the rest of the year. You just can't predict either of those squads at the moment. And then Monday night, I mean, there's something seriously wrong with the Seattle Seahawks and their offense. It's just rusted. His finger is, and not 100% still. They have no running game. It's just a disaster. And he still almost came back and made the miracle comeback against Washington. So who knows? But their season's pretty much dead at this point. And like I said, by starting it off, Washington back in the mix now. They played Dallas twice, and they played the Eagles twice. They played the Giants. Like, up for grabs in the NFC East. I guess it's a theme to take away from the week. But yeah, not too many like really good games, I guess, now that I'm looking at it, other than that Raiders Cowboys game. But hey, you know what? It's a football Sunday. We'll take all of them we can get at this point. It's only like a month left, so good to follow all the action.
Yeah, I think I tended to leave, like, some of the big paper matchups kind of disappointed me. And I think the biggest example of that was the Rams-Packers game. I mean, that was never a game. Like, if you were watching it, it's like it was really never a game. But thanks for the recap, John. And we say hello to the very festive Andy in Seattle, hanging out here with Main Street USA behind him. How's it going, my friend?
Yeah, I thought Ron would be on because you get the board reference. Dave, I don't think you were on it, but this was the board hates Christmas, and I'm on my crappy computer because new job, so I had to hand in my work computer. So I'm on this personal computer that obviously doesn't have the bells and whistles as my old work computer. But as Fiddle would say, never use a work computer to do personal stuff. Well, that ship has sailed. I mean, I've done everything but illicit websites on that work computer, but it doesn't matter. So yeah, we're on this old personal computer. Lubs, your boy Lubs.
Did you hear about that?
Yeah,
oh my God.
The other week, they hated Christmas, so and I think the board hates Disney too. So we got the best of both worlds here.
Love it. I would say that Sharon likes Disney. He's a big Disney guy. It's random, but he and Petey are big on Disney. Everybody knows Petey's that big on Disney. We know that already.
100%.
100%. But it's a very, very colorful visual behind you. But I didn't know that's a thing in the dead board. Man, the board is just too much. I was lashing out about that yesterday. I was actually on the board. I was like lashing out about it. It's like, enough. It's like, oh, goody, you're complaining again. That doesn't happen.
It's we're a cranky bunch. All of us have gotten older anyway. But
right.
I mean, we are just cranky people and complaining about everything under the sun.
Andy, give it up for yourself for 4-0. That's awesome, my friend. Like, was Tampa Bay one of the picks? Because like that Leonard Fournette touchdown.
I only went 3-1 in your pool because I took Mississippi. Yeah, man, we gotta double
Wait,
check.
let me go back. How do I keep doing this? I keep getting it wrong.
But I went because
You sure?
I took Ole Miss. Yeah, I took Ole Miss.
You did. I wrote down.
Right,
I wrote Ole Miss. Yeah.
I did take Ole Miss. I ended up changing a few things, like because in John's contest I took Green Bay, but in real life I ended up taking the Rams because I fell into the sharp line.
Oh, okay.
And then when I texted the picks with you, I took Ole Miss because, as I tweeted and said, like all summer long I can't wait to bet against Mike Leach. And then Thanksgiving morning I'm on the way to the airport and I think I was texting John. I'm like, Mississippi State -2.5, like. That makes no sense. Like, I'd be more confident taking Ole Miss if the line was like -2, -3. There's no way. Why Mississippi State the favorite? So I take Mississippi State in real life. And I mean, God, I'm never taking Mike Leach to the bowl game again. Take the keys to my gambling account if I ever take Mike Leach to the bowl game again.
Yeah.
But yeah, lucky in the contest 4-0. And then in John's contest, yeah, we got lucky too. But
cool.
You know, when you change things in real life, yeah, sometimes you have good weeks in the contest, but then you end up doing live bets and other bets and you don't really make money. But all in all, it was a successful weekend.
I love it. Andy, quick question. Did you want anything you wanted to add as far as the NFL week last week?
I caught John mid breakdown. I will say, you know, like it's a first world problem. You know, when I'm with family over this holiday, like I don't watch the games nearly as close. You know, it's like I get one TV. So Saturday, it's like I'm watching Ohio State, Michigan, and flicking through Florida State, and then I'm watching Auburn, Alabama, and flicking through the other stuff. Sunday's the same way. Like Dave, I'm sure LA and Palm Springs had the same thing. So we had Colts, Tampa. I got Pats, Titans on a little computer screen like this one here, and then on the late games I'm not really watching either because I'm actually doing stuff with my mom, so I didn't really get to see a ton. I got to see a decent amount of the Sunday night game, and I would say like we're done watching out for the Browns. The Browns have regressed. Dave, it's funny, like, and we can talk about this too, like the narratives change so many times in the NFL. Like, what's wrong with the Chargers? When we went to that Chargers-Browns game, the people were like, that, and us included, like, this could be a AFC preview because both teams were kind of peaking in early October. And now, it's like, what's wrong with the LA Chargers? Like, the Browns are a disaster. Now the Patriots are ascending at the right time. Everything's on schedule with them. Dave, we thought the Steelers could have flirted with their own. I don't think they can now. They just look so done. The Chiefs look to be getting it together. The Titans are no longer, the darlings that a lot of people thought they were going to be. The Colts, I know they lost to Tampa, but all of a sudden the Colts look a lot better than they did in the first month of the season. I think John nailed it. The Seahawks they're done. Like, it's like the end of a, marriage or a long-term relationship, boyfriend, girlfriend. It's not good. It's ending. It doesn't look good. I've been hammering against them the last 2 weeks. And I'm probably going to take San Francisco this week. So yeah, there's a lot of question marks around the Rams. Green Bay seems to be, Green Bay's always going to be Green Bay. San Francisco's they're hot. The Falcons of all teams, they're in the hunt all of a sudden. It's time to buckle up. We've got, a lot of these teams have 5 games left on their schedule, and I'm pretty sure most teams, the AFC North they're going to be playing each other. New England's playing Buffalo 2 times in the next 3 weeks. So we're going to really start to see, the rubber meets road here in the NFL season.
Yeah, pretty good. Yeah, that's pretty You're getting pretty down to the end of it, but with the extra game, it's a little bit more interesting. Thanks for the recap, Andy. Well, we'll look ahead then to what's to come, but first let's go to the picks, everybody. So, man, you got me in the mood. I feel good. I see all those Christmas stuff in the back, and Donald Duck and Goofy and Mickey Mouse, and who is that? Snow White in there? No. Who is that?
I don't know.
Is that Peter Pan and Wendy? I think. I guess. But anyway, this is just nonsense now. Let's see who's gonna go first with the picks. All right. So it's John. It's your pitch. Yeah, you're the leader for the season. So let's give it to you for the picks when you're ready.
All right, Dave. So we're gonna start here. Get my spreads. All right. Honestly, I don't know if you took. I mean, you guys probably looked at the card this week. Very, very ugly slate of games.
Yeah.
I do not know where to go really with these, so we're just kind of go off our feelings. Just my gut reaction to looking at the spread. So I'm going to start with fading Kingsbury on the road. So we are going to take the Bears plus 7.5 at home against the Cardinals. Now Murray still has not been officially said. They had not officially said, all right, well, he's 100% starting. So you could get a scenario here like the past couple of Arizona games where the spread will drop 4 points by Sunday, and it could be McCoy getting 3.5 by game time, but here you get 7.5 against Chicago. It didn't matter against Seattle because, like we talked about, they're just completely just a dead team. But Carolina beat them up pretty good. Even if Murray does play, he's probably might be a little bit limited. I mean, that's his whole game too, his mobility. I just don't trust Arizona playing this kind of number on the road. And, I'm sure there's going to be some elements in the mix here in Chicago, just cold, windy weather. I just think the Bears defense will be good enough to keep this game within a touchdown. So give me Chicago to start off here, plus 7.5 for the first game. Dalton played okay on Thanksgiving. I mean, I don't think he's a downgrade from Fields. Obviously, you'd like Fields to have the rushing element to his game to add to the offense. But, I think Dalton will do enough. And like I said, I think Arizona probably will win, but I think this will be a pretty close, low-scoring game. So give me the Bears plus 7.5 for game one. Game two, I'm going to take the Bills on Monday Night Football against the Patriots. It's only -3. If it was 4 or 5, I wouldn't do it. But, the Patriots have covered 6 games in a row. I mean, there's got to be a little bit of regression coming here at some point. They played some pretty rough teams lately. I mean, they played the Titans, missing basically every offensive weapon. I mean, the Falcons, if Cordell Patterson doesn't play, they can't score a point, and they played them couple weeks back. The Browns are clearly a shell of themselves, and they played them. So they've kind of had a fortunate schedule over the last month or so to kind of rack up these wins. I'm not saying they're not a good team. They're clearly playing really good football right now. I just think the competition they played a little bit down, and I just think there's a little bit of regression coming. Mac Jones has played great, but they really haven't asked him to do that much. And I think maybe this could be a spot where there might be a little more pressure on him now to perform. And, we'll see how he handles it. Where I think the Bills, they're a very Jekyll and Hyde team. When they show up, they dominate. And when they don't, as we saw in the games against the Jaguars and the Colts, when they lay an egg, it's pretty bad. But when they show up, they really play well. And I think they're just such a talented roster, especially on the defensive side of the ball. I think they'll be able to slow down what New England's going to throw at them, and then Josh Allen will make some plays, and I think the Bills can win this by a field goal. So I think at worst you'll get a push here, and I just think it's a good time to kind of sell high on New England. So again, not my most confident week picks for the NFL. I have no idea how we're going to do for my pool when we do 7, because the thought of that just is making me crazy right now. But for this week, we'll go with Chicago plus 7.5 and Buffalo -3 for NFL Week 13 picks.
All right, good luck. I mean, thank you for the picks, John. Oh, good luck too, but thank you for the picks. Tough week, you're right. I mean, the Buffalo game's going to be it looks like it could be a really good one. But before we get into that, let's go to Andy and let's get your picks for week number 13 in the NFL.
Yeah, thanks, Dave. Game number 1, I'm gonna go head to head with John, not because I think he's wrong, but I'm just wearing the pom poms here with New England, and I'm gonna take the Pats, getting 3. If I take my heart outside of the equation, I can actually see the Bills, romping the Pats, and everybody's like, oh, they suck. And then 2 weeks later, that's when Belichick gets his revenge at home. But I'm obviously not doing that. I'm actually going to take the Pats in game 1. Looking at this, no one knows what the forecast is going to be, but it's showing right now that it could be, windy and in a wintry mix Monday night. I guess we'll have to see how that actually transpires. But yeah, it's just a matter of taking a team that has covered a bunch in a row, and I know, and John documented really nicely, like they have been kind of the beneficiary of playing, a Browns team that can't get out of their own way, a Titans team that's been decimated with injuries, a Charger team that's very Jekyll and Hyde. Let's not forget earlier in the year, the Patriots had struggled to beat teams like Houston. They've lost to Miami. They're not a perfect team. They're just clicking in the right direction. And yeah, you can also say they're due for a loss. And but I'm just going to take my chances on a team that's, the Bills are very up and down. So, you don't really know what you're going to get. I know in the beginning of the year it was like a foregone conclusion that the Bills were going to, ascend. And, close your eyes, it's going to be Chiefs and Bills in the AFC Championship game. And it still might, but, we're just going to have to wait and see. I'm just going to ride the Pats until they, they show their other side of the coin, which they can do. But, it's tough to bet against the Pats when you're a Patriot Mongo and they're on this, winning streak. And, Belichick's going to keep his team grounded, I would think. I'm just trying to pop up their schedule real quick to see what other they beat the Falcons, they beat the Panthers. They haven't really played Murderers Row. This is the litmus test now. The 2 games against the Bills and the Colts, and then obviously they always struggle against Miami. But, this is going to be a game where everyone's going to be paying attention to. Monday night, AFC East, Pats, Bills. Give me Pats +3 for game number 1. Game number 2, as I kind of hinted, I'm going to take the 49ers, giving 3.5 against Seattle. Seattle is just, they're just not clicking at all. They have no running game. It's weird. It's crazy. They cannot get off the field when they're on defense on 3rd down, and then on offense they can't stay on the field at all. Every game, it's like the other team's got the ball 40 minutes and the Seahawks have it for 20 minutes. It's crazy. It's not sustainable. I was watching I think it was the game against the Packers, and Romo was like, "You gotta love the Seahawks defense." Like, yeah, they let the other team go from 20 to 20, but they hold them to 3 points a lot in the red. Like, that's not sustainable. Like, your defense is going to get tired, and especially when your offense cannot convert 3rd downs, your defense is going to be so gassed, and that's what happened against Washington. That's what happened against Green Bay. Wilson, Mr. Unlimited probably came back from his injury a little too early, and he's not right. Their best offensive performance was against the Jaguars with Geno Smith, of all people. And the 49ers, I know they lost Deebo Samuel again, but they just seem to be, they found their second win, and now they're right in it again. And they've got, you got to take care of business against Seattle if you want to inject yourself in the NFC postseason mix as we enter December. And yeah, this is just, I think the end is near for, Pete and Russell next year. I think at least one of them will be on a different team. can't stick around forever. So game number 2, give me the 49ers giving 3.5 against a very lost and confused Seahawks team.
All right, thanks for the pick, Sandy. It's a very interesting spread. I mean, to see the Niners giving 3.5 on the road. Definitely different times in the NFL these days. So let's go ahead and go to Ron's picks, which he sends via the text tonight. And here they are. Here they come, everybody. All right, so we're gonna go with. Give me a second here. Okay, for Ron, here we go. From the NFL in Week 13, he starts with the Dolphins giving 4.5 at home against the Giants. The Dolphins seem to be a different team. I think Tua's going to play. I'll double check that. But the Giants coming off a win, I mean, that's just a generally good principle play to fade them. So, I mean, the Giants did not look good. Man, I was watching the cut-ins of that game on the red zone. Their offense looked terrible. I can't believe they won. That's just crazy. They could not score a touchdown. I don't even know how they got a touchdown. Like, I was like, what? Every time I saw them at the goal line, they couldn't get in. Jones' throws were going like 10 feet over everybody's heads. Anyway, Dolphins giving 4.5, game number 1. Game number 2 for Ron, going with the Jets, getting 6.5 against the Eagles. And the panel has been really, really down on Philadelphia because they're not buying their record. I totally get it. So he will go with the Jets, getting the 6.5 points. And for Ron to do that, it really speaks to where he thinks the Eagles are at the moment. So Dolphins minus 4.5, Jets plus 6.5. The picks for Ron in Week 13. And that brings us to my picks, which really don't matter because my picks stink, but I'll try them anyway. So let's try. Let's just see what we got. Okay, so Week 13 in the NFL. I'll say this. My NFL picks have been good, but just not in the contest for whatever reason. So, let's start with this. We're going to go with the Saints getting 4 against the Cowboys. Now, why? Doesn't make any sense. In fact, actually, now that I think of it, it makes even less sense. And that's probably a bad pick, but you know what? I don't know. The Cowboys, they seem to be falling, aren't they? They are really starting to come off like the wheel. You can kind of see the wheels coming off that wagon. I'm very curious as to whether they can put away a team here. So the Saints looked awful against Buffalo, but this is the NFL. They can come back, and they'll probably look competitive in this game because it's the NFL. Teams are still getting paid and everything else. Cowboys might come in a little flat. You never know in the Superdome. So we'll see. Game number 2, 2 principles in play. 2. The principle number 1, Andy Reid off a bye. Principle number 2, Broncos off a win. This is not a good team. They're whatever team. But I did kind of have a feeling about them against the Chargers. I thought that they would give them a tough time. And surely enough, they ran away with it in Mile High. So coming off of that, going to Kansas City and then playing the Chiefs coming off a bye. Now, the Chiefs have not looked good this year, but they are still winning games. Like, that's what's weird about it. It's like, they've looked terrible, but they were I think they're on like a 4 or 5 game win streak. So away we go. We're going to go with the Chiefs giving 10 against the Broncos. And it's a lot of points, I'll tell you. I generally don't like to do that in a division game, but I think the Broncos are going to have a huge letdown here. So we'll take our chances with it. So Chiefs giving 10, Saints plus 4. The picks for Week 13. And that brings us to guest picks, which are from Mike in North Jersey. Let's switch over here and then take a look at them. All right, so Mike gives us these picks. Let's see. Do we have any checkers and checkers yet? No. I don't think so. I think so. We'll start. No, we might have. No, we don't. Okay. So we're gonna start with the Bengals giving 3 against the Chargers, and then for Mike, he also selects the Raiders giving 2.5. This is in Las Vegas, I believe. Yeah, at home against Washington. So for Mike, it's going to be Bengals giving 3 and Raiders giving 2.5. For Week 13. It's a tough week. I mean, would I trust the Raiders giving 2.5 against anybody right now? No, but it is what it is. I mean, it's fine. Like, I think we'll see what happens the rest of the way. But here are the featured games for Week 13. I really had to stretch some of these because honestly, the only really featured game to me would be, Andy, The game with Nance and Romo. No, actually, it's the Patriots and Bills. That's the one. But the game with Nance and Romo does deserve to be in there. I think this is like a do or die scenario for the Steelers. This is their last chance to do anything and make the playoffs. This is it. They need this game. Ravens kind of need this game too. I mean, they have looked they've looked a little ragged lately. Their offense looks bad. I mean, Lamar had 4 interceptions, I think. 4? It was a lot. So they'll be the featured game on CBS. Yes, I've included Nance and Romo this week, but it just goes to show you also how the week just looks. There's not a lot of great games. Like Chargers Bengals should be good, but I don't know. Both defenses are bad. It's hard to say whether one team might just come off the rails. We'll see. But those are featured games. There you go. And let's go back to John. Let's get your look at this week's action.
Yeah. Interesting week on paper. Like I said, some of these, it's crazy. You have like all these teams on the road favored by like a touchdown or more in the early window. So there's lots of teaser potential if you're into that kind of thing. I mean, I'm just looking at it right now. Like, all right, you do your Vikings, Colts. I picked against the Cardinals, but I mean, you could throw the Cardinals in there, teaser, and then maybe throw in like tease up like the Chargers to 9. There you go. There's your 4-team teaser for 1 o'clock right there. But yeah, the Chargers Bengals, like that would have been my third pick, I would have to say. It's crazy. Like I always try to do like the buy low, sell high kind of thing in the NFL, and it's a perfect spot to pick the Chargers because they're coming off of just a horrible performance in Denver, and we just saw the Bengals win by 35 points against the Steelers. So it's like, oh, Bengals only giving 3, like that looks way too easy. Well, maybe not. The Chargers are such a schizophrenic team. Like I could easily see them showing up and playing one of their good games in this one. So I might be on LA for this matchup. I mean, Denver has a pretty good defense. I would not say the same about Cincinnati, although they did make the Steelers look pretty inept. But I mean, the Steelers are pretty good at doing that. So I would lean LA with the points in this one, or at least definitely do that teaser. I don't see the Chargers losing by more than a touchdown in this game. This should be a close game because it's a huge playoff playoff implications. The Steelers Ravens, that's a rough one for Nance and Romo. They've got some bad games this year.
They really
feel
do.
bad for those guys, but hey, you know what? You can't be too bad. Dave, you're right. This is like the Steelers season. I mean, you got to figure they're going to put up at least a halfway decent effort at home. But man, their offense looks bad. So does the Ravens offense. Like maybe under is the look for this game. Was it 44, 43? I could see this being like a 20-17 kind of game. I had to pick. I'd probably lean Pittsburgh just because it's like 3.5 now, that half point. But man, I don't know if I want to touch this game at all. I touched on the Patriots game for Monday night. Tomorrow's game is pretty interesting. Dave, I actually do agree. I like your Saints pick, I have to say.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. I mean, not that it means anything, but I just think, McCarthy being out might be a positive for the Cowboys. I mean,
but guess who's coaching in his place though?
It's Kellen Moore though, isn't it?
I think they said it was going to be the defensive coordinator, the former Atlanta coach. I'll double check.
Oh, Quinn. Okay.
I think it was.
Well, I know Kellen Moore might be innovative to,
I was thinking, I'm going to double check because I did see an article about it. I thought it was going to be Kellen Moore too. That's why I was so surprised at it. I'm like,
Okay, it might be Quinn. Either way, like, it definitely disrupts a team when you're missing a bunch of coaches like that. Even if it is McCarthy, I mean, he's still the head coach of the team.
Yeah.
And then so the Saints are going to be starting Hill. I mean, I don't know. I think he's better than Simeon. At least he can add something with his legs, and maybe they can do some of that like read option play. I don't think Kamara's playing, so that's definitely hurts. But Ingram will be back, so that will help. I don't know. I just think the Saints aren't going to lay 3 eggs in a row here. I think they'll show up tomorrow. I like the Saints in that game. As far as the other games on Sunday, I don't know. There's really some bad games on paper. You figure the Colts will just run over Houston. I mean, that's probably another good pick too. Like Houston Houston is bad. Like, I stupidly took them to beat the Jets, so I deserve to lose that pick. I mean, that's a game that no one should have even played. It shouldn't have even been televised or even on the board to pick. It tempted me with that line of Houston -2.5, and it certainly did it.
My goodness, yeah.
Yeah, terrible. Can't even beat the Jets. So, yeah, as long as the Colts don't have a hangover from the Bucs game, they should just run all over Houston. So I do like that pick, actually. If I had to make a few, I'm slowly figuring my picks for the week here as I'm talking this out, Dave. And then in the late games, that San Fran game, I probably have to agree with Andy. How can you put money on Seattle unless you're just trying to be so contrarian that, you're just going against the public, which sometimes works, but in some cases, the obvious pick is the right pick in that regard. And then Washington and Vegas, that's another interesting game. Who the heck knows? I mean, Washington's playing better, but again, they just beat a corpse of a Seattle team. So going on the road against Vegas, I mean, Carr's playing pretty well. I mean, I would have to lean probably Vegas under. It's 2.5 now. Again, it's a number that looks kind of too easy. Like, oh, Raiders only by a field goal at home. Like, yeah, give me that. So that's my only hesitation. But I would definitely lean more with the Raiders in that game than the other game, where I would go with the Chargers with the Bengals game. Bengals only given 3. So, yeah, pretty ugly card, I have to say, in terms of betting.
Yeah,
should be some interesting games anyway to follow on Sunday.
Yep. I mean, there's potential for it to be interesting. How we would talk about oh, this looks like a bad week in paper for college football, but it winds up being really good. This could happen. This could happen this week because I feel like it was a little bit of the opposite last week, where oh man, we have these matchups, but some of them weren't that good. The Baltimore game was a good example. That was rough. So we'll see. I mean, a lot of potential, like you said, teaser potential, over/under potential. I'll look at the weather. Anyway, Andy, let's get your thoughts on this week's action and what's to come there.
Yeah, I'll just be kind of making my final decisions, Saturday night at 3 a.m. or whatever when I make the picks. But it's weird this NFL season. It's so crazy, right? Right. So last week, I took the Raiders because I don't know why. I was just I don't know. I like taking the dogs on Thanksgiving, the road dogs, or the teams on the road for some reason. But there's no reason to take the Raiders. They had just lost 3 in a row. They lost to the Giants. They lost to the Chiefs on that Sunday night game, and then they lost to someone else. They were trending in the wrong direction. And now they beat Dallas, and now they're back in it. And now Washington's a team they've got rejuvenated life. And so, yeah, that game's just a total crapshoot. Cincinnati, LA Chargers, if anything, that game should be the 425 Nance and Romo game. But Ravens Steelers it is. Yachts is actually going to be there.
Yeah, you mentioned that. You're right. That's right.
Good luck. Have fun. Congratulations. Sorry. Whatever it may be. He's gonna
something yachts.
Yeah, he's gonna get it all on Sunday. But yeah, it's weird because as you guys mentioned, and Dave, as you well know, classic Tomlin.
Yep.
Tomlin as a dog is usually you want to take Tomlin as a dog. That's the Steelers in a nutshell. They play up or down to their opponent. But they've just been Roethlisberger's just looked so bad the last 2 weeks in a row. I know they almost came back against LA on that Sunday night, but they were just atrocious against the Bengals. That game was 21-3, almost a half hour into that game. So I guess we'll just have to wait and see on the average casual sports fan be oh yeah, Ravens, but that's why they play the game, and we'll see. And I'm gonna have to go to oddshark.com and confirm the history of Broncos Chiefs, because I always take the Broncos against the Chiefs, and it's just the Denver they cannot move the ball, and for whatever reason, whenever the Denver Broncos and the Chiefs play, especially when the game's in Denver, I always end up taking Denver. It always seems to be like a Thursday night game, and I'm like, this is why I'm not taking Denver. I'll take the Chiefs in this one because, bye week and all. And then, I'll probably – it seems like all of us might be leaning New Orleans tomorrow, which could be very scary. But I can't trust the Cowboys. I think the Cowboys might have peaked too soon. All these teams were like – oh, they're great. Well, no one's great this year. There's just so much. There's players get hurt. It's just I don't know. There's really no like great team. Which is if you're John, you're like this is all it's all kind of shaping up for Green Bay, Tampa Bay in the NFC, right?
Right.
I think the Rams are just too kind of hobbled. Maybe the Rams will find their equilibrium against Jacksonville because Jacksonville's so bad. But I don't know. There's not like a huge point spread this week, except for the LA Rams.
Well, the Denver one too, though, right? Like the 10
Denver,
points.
Yeah, Denver's like 9.5.
Yeah.
And I would probably I'm gonna take I'll side with Ron and take the Dolphins. I already know that I'm gonna take some stupid money line parlay and the Dolphins are gonna be on it and I don't know. The Bengals are probably gonna be on it.
Bengals. Wow.
Yeah. I'll probably I think
that's interesting.
I'm probably gonna take the Bengals.
Okay. No, I'm not saying that's a bad pick. I'm just saying because it's interesting because like you could be on either side of that, right? You could totally see it, but the chart, I don't know what to do. Take the over, but then I look at the weather. I'm like, oh, I don't even know if I'm gonna take it over.
Yeah, that's a game that you would just kind of like assume there'd be a lot of points scored.
Yeah.
Based on the eyeball test.
Yeah. Well, I hope it hits for you either way. Like that could be a really good game. Or it could be a terrible game.
Maybe I'm just being extra wishy-washy because we got the nitty-gritty in the Jones pool.
Oh, I don't know. Yeah, it's getting down to it, John. Like
It really is.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Decisions.
You guys, Andy, 7-0 week. That only the second one all year, so that was really good. Put yourself in a nice spot, but
Andy,
very, very close.
Done.
Close standings, so we'll see what happens. But I've been playing like some of these unders, and it's infuriating to watch like an under of 43 just get burnt by like, for example, I had the Patriots-Titans under the other day, and the only reason the over hit was because the Titans went for it like 4th and 14 on their own territory late in the game. It was the right play in terms of a coaching move because Vrabel was playing to win the game, but in terms of like busting an under, it just killed it because then the Patriots just ran it in from the 20-yard line after that. I was so annoyed about that. So I already can see that happening this weekend with like the Giants and the Dolphins because there's no way that game should go over like 41 points or whatever it is because the Giants, I don't think they've scored more than like 17 at any of their last few games. And Miami's defense is really good and their offense isn't that great. That should be like 17-10, but there's going to be some like bullshit, kick return or block punt or pick six, and that'll end at like, 23-20 somehow, and I'd lose. But I already know that that's going to be an under pick. So a fair warning.
It's the right side though.
Was on the under. Like all the unders that I take and just get busted in some bullshit manner this year. So that's how it goes.
It's tricky when it's under 45. That's the thing. It's like when it's less than 45 points, it could really go either way. Like, so it's kind of fortunate for that purpose. Is the Ravens game? I think Andy mentioned this. Somebody mentioned this. I think you mentioned it, actually. The over-under, I think, at the moment is 44. So that's pretty good. But if it was like 42, ooh, I don't know.
Was that the Ravens and Steelers? Yeah, I would say under 44 for that, for sure. Definitely.
Yeah, definitely. When we get to college, I got a real proposition for you guys. I think it's going to be very, very interesting. Long-term stuff, talking about like degenerate moments of the week and whatever. But let's go right to college football. And all right, so let's get a look at what happened last week in college. A lot. I guess that's just sort of the summary. It was unbelievable. Like I'm more happy that Michigan won than I am disappointed that Ohio State lost. And believe me, my card got hammered because of that. I had so much shit tied around like Ohio State winning parlays, spread bets, over-unders, whatever. The whole thing got blown up because Michigan won the game. But you know what? I don't care because I really was happy for them finally getting it done. Because the rivalry is never complete unless the other team wins too. So from that standpoint, I was very, very satisfied with that outcome, regardless of how the card. I've been doing shitty with college anyways. It doesn't matter. The Auburn game was just frustrating. I'm not gonna get too much. Eddie can probably break that down better, but a lot to come. So John, we'll start with you. The first thing I want to ask you. So the NC State game was ridiculous, like the way that ended, like just a crazy comeback. Yeah. And he knows.
Yeah, we all had money on NC State.
Oh my goodness, this is wild. But so, do you want to start with the last week's action, or do you want to start with the coaching stuff? Because that was its own, man. That was crazy. Like, so it ends with Lincoln Riley here in LA. It ends with like Brian Kelly, who knows where, or maybe we know where at this point. You have Napier. You guys were talking about this. Napier going somewhere. He went to Florida. So do you want to do coaching stuff first, or do you want to do like the weekend action first, John?
We'll just do coaching first, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, Dave, what a home run by USC.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean,
absolutely.
Yeah, you can't. I mean, and honestly, people are like killing Riley. Like it's a smart career move because who wants to go? The SEC, man, it's gonna be brutal. Like they're gonna just be churning coaches out of there like nothing. Like 3 years, like you can't win more than 8 games. Like you're going on. Like it's gonna be so like pressurized, and you already see it now. It just it's not a tenable situation for a lot of these guys for long-term stability. Like he can go to the West Coast and just completely dominate Pac-12 conference at USC. So I think it was a great move on his part, and you know he'll do very well there. I already saw he took some of those recruits that he was taking to Oklahoma that were from Southern California, like this 5-star quarterback, already like decommitted and then committed to USC already. So that was a great job. Whoever negotiated that, tremendous job out of the athletic director and the administration there. So kudos to USC. Who saw Brian Kelly to LSU coming? I mean, my goodness, like that's just like we're living in bizarro world. Like if you had told me on August 28th that on Championship Saturday, the last 2 games of the night we're watching would be Wake Forest, Pitt, Michigan, Iowa, and Brian Kelly would be at LSU. Like I'd say, like the world was probably ending. That is just, I mean, bizarre, completely bizarre. And I don't see. It's a complete opposite move, the career move of Lincoln Riley. Like I don't understand why he would make that move, other than they're paying him, 10 times more than he was. Not 10 times more, maybe double his pay than Notre Dame, because that's just going to be a tough situation. Again, tough to try to win in the SEC. I mean, someone's going to have to win, obviously, but competing against all these other coaches, it's going to be tough. So, but hey, good luck to him. And now it looks like that Notre Dame is going to stick with their defensive coordinator, Marcus Freeman, who I think we've talked about before on the show is kind of like an up and coming coach. But you know what? They probably really wanted Fickell. But the way the college recruiting cycle is now, like the early signing day is in 2 weeks. Like they can't wait. They can't wait for him to coach the college football playoff. And if Cincinnati wins and makes the playoff, he's not leaving for Notre Dame while like Cincinnati's in the college football playoff. That's just not happening. I mean, he could, but like he'd just be, a huge douchebag, and like that just would not look good on on his name, to be honest. So they'll stick with Freeman. And it looks like they're going to keep their offensive coordinator Tommy Rees too. So no one wanted to go to LSU with Kelly, so he's pretty much stuck at this point down there with God knows who. But I mean, I think that'll probably work out well, honestly, for Notre Dame. So they got a young up and coming coach who can like build his own kind of legacy there. So I think Notre Dame, either him or Fickell, would have worked out. Obviously, Fickell was their number one target. But like I said, I don't think he was going to leave Cincinnati while they're in the college football playoff. And obviously, we'll get to that in a little bit. But so I think that was the number one reason for that. Washington hires the coach from Fresno, Kalen DeBoer. And then they get their transfer quarterback, Jake Haener, who was at Washington, then went to Fresno, and I was back to Washington because this guy's the coach. So some good stuff there from them. Trying to think of any other. Oh, so there's these southern kind of Texas teams all made these moves. So I have no. Let's put TCU on the fade list for next year because they just hired Sonny Dykes. I don't know what they're doing with that.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I have no idea what they're doing. Like, he'll win you 7 games, score a bunch of points, and have like 5 head-scratching losses because that's basically what he does at SMU every year.
Yeah.
I do not know what's going on with that, but hey, good luck to them. So they'll be on a fade list for next year. SMU replaced him with Rhett Lashley, who I know actually was coordinator at UConn for 1 year. He was at Miami this year, so I think that was a good job by them. Trying to think of anything else noteworthy. Napier to Florida.
Right.
I don't know about that. We'll see. I mean, he's done a nice job at Louisiana, but I honestly can't say one way or the other. Well, I'm neutral on that one. That's what I'll say about Napier to go into Florida. And then Oklahoma's pretty much screwed at this point. Like, I don't know who they're going to get. And they're losing recruits left and right. It's just not good for them. So we'll see. Maybe it's Urban Meyer. Maybe it's Dan Mullen. Who knows? Like, he's going to resurface here somewhere. Maybe he's going to resurface at like a MAC school or something. Like, or McElwain's now at Central Michigan. I could see Mullen doing something like that for a couple of years. But man, what a hot stove of coaching, and we're still only at the beginning. And like, no NFL teams have fired their coach yet too, so that could play into to all of this as well once that starts happening. So man, what a crazy time.
It really is. I don't know why Chip Kelly I'm not sorry. I made this mistake years ago. Brian Kelly, I don't know why he's afraid of the NFL. It feels like he's afraid of the NFL. Like, you would think he'd have a head coaching job over there by now. The results are the results.
I would welcome Brian Kelly in the NFL.
Trade target?
I don't think that would. Yeah. I don't know. That would be like a Greg Schiano scenario. Remember when he was in the NFL for a couple of years? How that went? That was pretty rough. Well, someone shared like when they're discussing the Notre Dame options for a coach. They showed a picture of Matt LaFleur, like when he was Notre Dame quarterbacks coach, and I wanted to punch the person through the phone. Like, no, he is not leaving for Notre Dame. Sorry.
Oh man, yeah, I can imagine all the rumors right now with all that stuff, with all the coaching scenarios. So Andy, let's swing it to you. Yeah, that was great. A lot of that stuff happened on Monday, and I was like, I was doing something else, and then I just look at my phone like, did you see this happen? And it's like, what in the hell? I was just like it was crazy. But Andy, let's get your thoughts on the coaching scenarios.
Yeah, I mean, quickly on Dykes, like, he's the same media that covered him at TCU is going to cover him at SMU. I mean, it's still like it's Fort Worth, like that's that's weird. Like, he's leaving TCU and then going to,
that's a good point. It's pretty close, yeah.
Like 40 miles away, but I don't think Brian Kelly would be successful in the NFL. I think he's just too much of a. I don't think the average NFL player would respect him, to be honest with you. I think I said this on the board. Like, the difference between James Franklin and Brian Kelly is like they're both assholes. Brian Kelly does not hide the fact that he's just a complete jerk. Where James Franklin will deny being a jerk, but he's a jerk. But I think Brian Kelly's just a complete jerk. Good luck to him at LSU. You got to play Alabama every year. You got to play Auburn every year. You got to play Florida every year. It's got to be interesting. But just in general, like the hot stove with college football and the coaching, like the whole, the purity of college football has been dead for years. Like, anyone that says otherwise is joking or just completely naive. Like, it's a business. I'm watching this Kraken shootout here. It's just a business. We gamble our rear ends off. We love it. But in this day and age, in the SEC, 9-3, these coaches are going to be on the hot seat. And, Dog took all these calls from like these butthurt Notre Dame guys this was before the Brian Kelly news. God, I fucking lost. Fuck. Sorry, distracted. Big parlay down the tubes. They lost a shootout. Fucking Kraken lost in a shootout. They fucking suck. But anyway, let's get back. Let's focus here. Like,
I thought they started well. Weren't they like kind of doing well there?
No, they've been playing really well. They had won like 5 in a row. But
yeah.
You gotta beat Detroit. Fuck.
Detroit beat Boston the other night too. What the hell's going on there? Jeez.
I had a Celtics Kraken parlay plus 210.
Oh man.
Anyway, back
Okay.
to the podcast. Keep it to the podcast. Like, it's like, did you see Saban's press conference on before the Auburn game? Like, that was more like, I think that was like, he made it seem it was like the players, but that was like him like lashing out because he was like, an Alabama fan like just used to be happy about a win. He's like, an Alabama fan now they don't like it when we don't win when we don't cover. He's like, I'm so sick of like everyone saying team is done after 2 losses. He's like, the teams are most dangerous when they've lost 2 in a row. But that's how we treat it. Like, once you lose 2 games, you're out of the playoff. And that's like, that's just a bad narrative. Like, they might be out of the playoff. Like, they got pride. Like A&M, like all these teams that lose 2 in a row, like they don't want to go on a slide. But we interpret it like, yeah, it's a disaster of a season if you're a team like LSU and you have 2 losses because your expectations were to be in the playoff. But if you have 2 losses, you're not going to be in the playoff. And with Lincoln Riley, like, we talk about, how Captain and the Yankee fan, like, they're so aggressive and crazy about their team. Like, that's like the Southwest and the SEC football fan, like, and it just matriculates. Like, those institutions, like, that's all they have. That's all they have in Alabama. That's basically all they have in Austin, Texas. That's all they have at College Station. That's all they have in the swamps of LSU. And so, like, Lincoln Riley like the Oklahoma captain. Like, they actually, I'm going to shit on Brian Cashman's car. Like, people go to Lincoln Riley's house and like toilet paper his trees. Like, and like Lincoln Riley wasn't taking it just from Oklahoma. Like, Lincoln Riley was taking it from like SEC fans, being like, Lincoln Riley doesn't want to come to our conference. Like, he's a libtard. He just wants to go to California. And, like, SEC is such a bad program. And like, I don't know. Like John says, like, would you rather go to the SEC and compete with Saban, Harsin, Brian Kelly, the Florida guy, in Texas and Oklahoma every year, or would you rather go to the Pac-12 and coach? Your contemporaries are, a crazy Herm Edwards, an old Chip Kelly, an unproven Washington State coach, an unproven Fresno State coach, a Bill Belichick disciple at Arizona. You go to SEC, or you're gonna go to Southern California, and so it's good for Lincoln Riley. I think the Southern California, it elevates the team. It's going to elevate the program because everyone likes SC, and now that SC has like a high profile coach, it's going to elevate that conference's reputation, I think, and it's a great move for anyone that's interested in like getting that Pac-12 rejuvenated, getting them ahead of the ACC, which we'd like to see, and crazy times. I'm fucking pissed at the Kraken.
I can feel it. You're a pain in there because, like I was saying with the Detroit, I had a 2 like parlay on Monday. I think it was Monday or Tuesday. I forget which day, but it was like Boston and I think they were like giving like 300 too. Like Boston and some other team. The other team won easily, and then like Boston like spit the bit there in the 3rd period against Detroit. So I don't know what was going on with Detroit. That's weird. But thank you for that recap, you guys. That's actually really good. I'm glad we started with that because I didn't want to forget about the coaching scenarios. That was just nuts. It really was. So back to John. Michigan gets it done. NC State, wacky, I don't know what else you can say. I mean, Jackson Dart almost pulled the upset against BYU. Speaking of the Mountain West, like BYU's not a Mountain West, but that Mountain West was ridiculous. Like, okay, so Boise State was up like early in the game. I think they're up 14-6, and they go on to lose pretty convincingly. I get why you all keep saying that Boise State's tough to take, because I was on them. It's like, that was ridiculous. But John, I'll give it to you. Last week's action.
I'm gonna be like Andy here in a few minutes. I got Nebraska plus 6.5, and like it's every overtime. I'm like, want it to end. Now it's going to a fourth overtime.
Oh my God, it's still going? I saw the score.
And NC State. Yeah.
Wow.
It's going to the fourth overtime now, tied. Like they've just blown like every overtime. They're ahead by 2 near the end, and they end up getting tied. I know they're gonna lose by 7 in this next overtime, but in any event.
Degenerate moment of the week.
Our degenerate moments of the week, Dave, both for me and Andy right now. Yeah, what can you say about Saturdays? The whole weekend's slate of college football. I mean, Michigan, they finally did it, and good for them. They just ran it right down their throats, really, the whole game. It was like old school football. They established the run, they stopped the run. Stroud and their offense ended up getting it going kind of later in the game, but they just couldn't stop them at all. And Michigan, number 2 in the country, like who would have thought it beginning of the season? Just craziness, and good for them. And really, it was, you can kind of see it from the start too. That's kind of where it was heading, and the result of the game. And you got these people like. Going after Ryan Day, it's like, the Ohio State loses one game, and like these people are like all over him. I mean, Michigan, they've lost 10 in a row to Ohio State. Like, give Harbaugh some credit. The biggest move he made really this year was bringing in that new defensive coordinator from the Ravens, McDonald, to replace whoever they had. And that they completely changed their defense around, and that was a huge factor. Especially against, they've always had trouble stopping Ohio State. And that certainly was not the case for most of the game this year. They really held them in check. So that was a huge result of the week. The Bama-Auburn game, I mean, man, Auburn's got to be kicking themselves so many times. I mean, they had that one guy, their best defensive lineman, like, gets ejected. So that was a huge thing there that had an effect on the game. Even then, the running back goes out of bounds late in the game, adding 40 seconds onto the clock, which ended up being a difference because Bama scored with barely any time left when they went in for their drive there when they ended up tying it. So that was a huge play. And then, like, Brian Harsin, like, go for 2, man. Like, what are you doing? Like, you score the touchdown in overtime. You have the 2-point conversion to win the game. Like, go for it there. Like, why would you want to get into the 2-point shootout at that point? Like, just go for 2 to win the game. Like, that was a mistake to not do that. And they had a good 2-point play too, because they converted on their first attempt in that stupid system, but they converted it. So if he had run that play there, game over. But so it shouldn't even really have gotten to that point. Like, Auburn's got to be kicking themselves. But you know what? Georgia should take care of Alabama this week, I would have to say. So we'll put an end to the Tide after Saturday, I would think. But Bama's offensive line was just so bad. Like, I can't see them blocking Georgia in this game coming up. But so that was a huge game in the middle of the afternoon. And then the nightcap, you had Bedlam, Oklahoma State. You thought it was gonna be the same old thing where, like, Oklahoma State couldn't get over the hump against their rivals. Some turnovers and just some crazy goings on in that game. And then, they really ratcheted up their defense and they just barely pulled out the win. Again, for selfish purposes, like, I don't understand why Gundy went for 2 up 4 so soon. Like, you do that when there's like a minute left, because then, okay, like, you would want them to kick the extra point. But, like, you essentially you screwed yourself, because then if Oklahoma scores a touchdown, then you can't kick a field goal to win the game. Like, there was like 9 minutes left when you went for 2. But selfishly, as someone who took them 4.5, I would have liked them to just kick there. But in any event, they got the win, and they're in great position now. We'll see about this weekend. The committee could pull some shenanigans and put them ahead of Cincinnati. I don't know. We'll see what happens, but we can talk about that after. But yeah, those were the three main games. That North Carolina State game was just wild. There's really nothing else you can say. Like, I don't know how much longer Mac Brown is for North Carolina. Honestly, like he's just not with it. Then Dave, you're right about Boise. Like that was another game. The spread moved like 4 points to make Boise like a 3-point favorite, and then they just completely just choked in the second half. But great weekend of rivalry action, and that's all you can hope for on the last weekend or Thanksgiving college football. And I'll just mention one other thing about coaching I forgot to mention before. Mel Tucker, $95 million. Man, that is just bizarre. For what? How many wins does this guy have so far? 12 wins? Like that's just they set the market for sure for future coaches. That's all he did. He's not going to last those 10 years.
No, I know that I knew he was going to get an extension. I didn't know it was going to be that much. That's crazy. Wow. Yeah, I guess if they can afford it. All right, Andy, let's give it to you for the recap of last week's action too.
Yeah, I don't know. I need an econ major to figure out how all these college picks and coaches are making so much money. I mean, there's the states.
If I was a staff member at any of those schools, I'd be furious. It's like, what the fuck, man? Like we could pay
and then all these assistants have to get paid too. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Right.
And within the buyouts, where does Florida come up with all this money? I mean, I know they got boosters.
Theoretically, it's a public institution. It's like, where are you getting this money? Like, anyway, go ahead, man. I'm sorry.
It's crazy, but yeah, that Alabama-Auburn game was just nuts. Auburn gagged that away. They had that game stolen from the jaws of victory, which weird. Like in the previous game where Alabama always struggles at Auburn and they lose, it's like you watch the game and it's like, all right, they look like crap, but I think they'll pull it out, and then they don't. Saturday was different. It's like they're dead. Like they're not going to win this game, and somehow, some way, they end up winning. Everything that could go wrong was going wrong for Alabama, and in that fourth quarter, like they couldn't even get good snaps on field goals on 4th and 1. Bryce Young couldn't get the low snap. They were dead. They were absolutely dead.
Yeah, you're right.
They can't. I mean, it all changed when the Auburn running back went out of bounds. Haunting, very haunting. But credit Bryce Young. He went 97 yards in the big play in biggest drive of the game. A couple 4th down conversions. Alabama kicker had to make a big field goal in the second overtime. They survived with a hair of their chinny chin. And I think Georgia, half of me is like, Georgia, we're gonna kill them. We want to pound Georgia now. And then the other half of me is like, well, Nick Saban is diabolical. Maybe he's got a scheme to keep Georgia in check, but I don't know. I don't think so. My Michigan, Ohio State, I was on Michigan. The only reason why I really liked Michigan was the night before I saw the weather forecast, and I'm like, ooh, this is gonna. I think they'll slow down the Ohio State offense if it's gonna be in a wintry mix. And Harbaugh was due. Good for them. I still think if we do talk about the next week's games or whatever, I don't think it's a lock that Michigan's going to beat Iowa. Michigan.
Really?
Yeah, I don't think so.
Really?
Michigan.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, Michigan lost to Michigan State. They should have lost to Penn State. Iowa is the king of muckability. Iowa wins because they create turnovers, they cause fumbles, they return interceptions, weird shit happens. Yeah, it's no guarantee Michigan wins. Recency bias, yeah, they're gonna win, right. But Michigan, they muck it up too.
That's what I was thinking. I feel like they would outmuck.
Rutgers covered against Michigan.
Yeah, that's true.
We'll see. But Bedlam was entertaining. I'm glad Gundy was able to turn it around, and that I was pissed. I was lucky to get Oklahoma State -4, but I also had Oklahoma State in a money line parlay with who did I have? UCLA and some other team, maybe Nevada. But when Oklahoma State was down 9, I was pretty irate. But yeah, it was great that on that rivalry Saturday, you had Bedlam, Iron Bowl, and the game all mean something and all have an impact on the playoff picture. Just a good day of following the pigskin. Yeah, even that Friday 9 a.m. local start for Boise State, San Diego State. I was golfing. I didn't see how San Diego State turned it around in the second half, but as someone that had San Diego State +3, I wasn't complaining. I hate Boise State. Hank Bachmeier, get lost. I think he's coming back in the year, but yeah, so we're going to be into San Diego State, Utah State in the Mountain West Championship next week. Oh, yeah, Meat went dead. And Western Kentucky's a favorite against UTSA.
That's interesting.
Because that was a close game, 52-46 the first time around. I'll probably take Western Kentucky on Saturday. But, yeah, it was a really entertaining last regular season Saturday of the year.
Every day was too.
I took Wake Forest. I know that was kind of a trappy game, but I hate BC and Wake Forest. They took care of business. I even watched flicked the channels way too much of that Florida State game, but Florida State backdoored, lost by 3. We need that rivalry to mean something again.
Yeah, that's true. Kind of like the same deal with I wish Miami versus anybody meant anything anymore. That would be great to see that back. So what are you gonna do? But anyway, John, a lot to unpack there, Andy. That's really interesting. You actually give Iowa a chance, which I think your argument makes sense. It's just that I do feel like Michigan can out Iowa. That's kind of my thought on that. But I think you know a lot more about these teams than I do. So I totally feel you on I totally understand your point. It's a really good argument. So John, let's go back to you for a sec. I think we both did the recap, but I did want to follow up on some stuff. No, I think that was it. Never mind. Okay, let's go to the featured games. I thought there was something else I was going to say, but forgot. But yeah, this is interesting. So let me go back to run this down. So these are the pertinent games, I think. The featured games are really interesting here. Conference USA, Andy's on Western Kentucky. That's interesting. Oregon, Utah is the same night on Friday. Is that an interesting game anymore? I don't know. It's a rematch of the game from earlier. Utah crushed them last time. I have no idea. I don't even care, I guess, at this point. Winner goes to the Rose Bowl. That's probably all it amounts to. Can you imagine a Utah, Iowa, what would it be, Utah, Iowa Rose Bowl or something like that? Or maybe Utah versus, that's not going to be a fun Rose Bowl. But anyway, Big 12, Sun Belt, SEC, you see it all there. Here's the thing, okay? So here's what I'm going to say about the SEC championship. And the AAC too, actually. I think that Houston's going to be a live dog in Cincinnati. 1. 2, I think 2 things are going to happen with it. This is just my opinion, but I think 2 things are going to happen with the SEC game. Georgia is either going to win by 1 billion points or they're going to lose a game. Because I never, for my entire life, have ever trusted Kirby Smart in a close game. He's proven to me why I don't trust him in a close game. He just doesn't coach well in close games. He's just not good at close games. He's not good at protecting leads. I don't think they're the kind of offense that can come from behind either. Even though their defense is amazing. I'm just saying, if they're going to win, they're going to win by 1 billion points. I don't see they win by 2 points. It's not going to happen. Bama wins or Georgia wins by 1 million. It's one of the two. And, John, what's the scenario with the game? I'm seeing the game. It's still a 2-point game.
Yeah, Nebraska just made a 3, thank goodness. They're down 3 with 2 seconds left, so I think we're going to cover that one.
Okay,
thank
cool.
God.
Whew, what a relief. But yeah, I think that's about it. I mean, is there anything else you want to add before we go to picks, John? Oh, I'm sorry. We're supposed to be doing featured games. Excuse me. So let's go to featured games. I'll let you go first.
All right. Yeah, no, I mean, really a great slate of action.
Yeah.
For this weekend, I would agree. I think at least the degenerate college football fan in me, I'm more excited for the Conference USA game on Friday night over the Pac-12. I mean, like you said, it doesn't really mean anything. I mean, although that line is very, very fishy. So you're telling me that Utah wins by 30 points at home, and now is only minus 2.5 on a neutral site? Like, that's just telling me take Oregon for sure. So I'll probably make a bet on Oregon, but I'm much more interested in the Western Kentucky game. That's actually going to be part of my picks, so we'll save that. The Baylor Oklahoma State game, Oklahoma State's playing for the college football playoff, but you could almost say that there could be a little bit of a letdown aspect here after coming off of beating their rival in just such an emotional game for the first time in so long. And, their defense is amazing. So they shouldn't be a problem against Baylor. And, the Baylor offense is pretty good. I mean, they run the ball really well. I don't know if their quarterback is going to be playing Bohannon. He had gotten hurt a couple games ago, but the replacement was playing great. So we'll see. I think that'll be a pretty close game. I see the spread is 5.5 right now. I would lean Baylor in the under. That would be kind of my lean in that game. I think that'll be a pretty competitive game. And like I said, I think Oklahoma State might start out a little flat. You have the Sun Belt, App State in Louisiana. Obviously, Louisiana does not have Napier anymore, so that's a huge factor. So you'd have to kind of lean App State in that game. You don't have the MAC on the screen, Dave. So that's Northern Illinois and Kent State. Like the over-under is like 75. It should go over, I would say. Honestly, like those two offenses on a indoor track. I mean, that's just going to be points galore.
Oh, yeah.
I think for those two teams.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, I just ran out of room. I mean, there are a lot of games.
Yeah, that's fine. No, it's fine. I mean, there's only 10 games. And USC Cal will cap off the night for everybody at 11 o'clock.
Oh, my God. I'm not even going to try with that one.
Honestly, like, that's the smartest move ever because everyone's going to be watching the Big Ten ACC games, and it's going to be over at 11 o'clock, and they're like, shit. We want some more football. Well, guess what, baby? We got USC and Cal.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, you're right about that.
Time. Yeah, I'll be into it for sure. But so I think the MAC game will go over. That would be my pick for that one. Georgia, Alabama, like I said before, I think Georgia should handle them pretty well. I mean, the line is trappy, but again, Saban could cook something up, but I just don't like how are you going to block those Georgia guys on the defensive line? And Georgia hasn't allowed more than 17 points in a game all year. Like Tennessee scored 17 on them. That was the highest point total they've given up all year. So, I don't see the Bama. Even if Bama gets 17, like I think Georgia could still get 20 on offense. So I think Georgia's going to win, and that should probably knock out Bama. And then you have Cincinnati playing for their playoff lives against Houston. I think Houston will be a trendy dog. I would lean Houston just because their defense is really good, but man, I don't know. That's a scary. Like I stupidly went with SMU a couple of weeks ago at Cincinnati, and they just got destroyed. I could almost see the same thing happen here. Although, like I said, Houston has the defense to stick in the game with Cincinnati. I did see Houston play UConn last week, and they were okay. But I mean, again, it was a game that meant nothing, so they probably weren't. They were just playing so vanilla at that point. And then I'm going to be taking the Michigan game in my pick, so we'll save that. And then the ACC games should be interesting. Wake Forest and Pitt, two really good underrated quarterbacks with Hartman and Pickett going after one another. I think this game again could be a lot of points, but I think the Pitt defense is going to be the difference in this game because they're much better than Wake's defense, so they'll get some stops. And then I don't think Wake will be able to really stop Pitt at all. So I like Pitt -3 in that game. So I guess that's kind of a quick rundown of the games. And like I said, the other two I didn't mention, we'll talk about in my picks. So love the slate this weekend actually for college. I wish I could do 7 college picks. I would be all in on that instead of NFL picks. But alas, we move on.
I am very tempted to bet all these games. Dave,
I think should do like a $2 like 12-team parlay or something and see what happens.
Like money line or spread or both? Or
Well, you do both. Do one with the spreads and one with the money line.
Oh, there you go.
Cost you just a couple bucks. So,
yeah.
Might as well do it.
Yeah, I'm with it. All right, Andy, let's get back to you and get your thoughts on these conference championships. There's a lot of good ones. Did we lose Andy? Oh, there he is.
Back. I switched to my phone. Hold on. I switched to my phone because I had to go to the laundry room. I think we're back. We're back.
All right.
Yeah, so I heard John's recap. Yeah, like, what do you mean? Who doesn't bet on I'm betting on every game. It's the championship weekend, yeah.
Let's do it.
I'm
Yeah.
100% on the track meet that will be the MAC championship. I'm locked in on Kent State. I'm locked in on Utah State. I'm locked in on Oregon. I'll probably take the dogs in the Big 12 and the Big 10. App State, I know we love Louisiana, but without Napier, I think I'll probably take App State. And I'll probably take Saban and then regret it because, yeah, as John mentioned, Georgia's just a machine. But the thing about Georgia, the only way Alabama has a chance is, like, if they can get up, like, on – I don't think Georgia's been down more than, like, 3 or 7 points all year round. So
yeah.
Jensen Bennett Bennett hasn't had to do anything because everything's been on schedule with him. He's never had to throw, like, 100% because they've never had to play from behind. So, if Saban can do something in the lab to draw up some sort of magic potion, then that'd be nice. But if not, then Georgia could have their way with Alabama. Like, it's not a vintage Alabama team. We've seen it. They can't run the ball consistently, and their defense is atrocious. Like, their defense is not good at all. So yeah, that's the scenario with the SEC. I can see myself taking Houston and regretting it. John knows, like, how – imagine if Houston did not choke against Texas Tech week 1 in the regular season. Like, it's crazy.
That is. So, was there more, or was that your recap?
No, I was just rambling on. No, I think that's about it. As you mentioned, I think Iowa's going to be a live dog, and I think that I'm into, I like to make fun of the ACC, but Pitt and Wake are actually watchable this year because their quarterbacks are fun. Oh, forgot to mention a big FU to Virginia last week, choking against Virginia Tech. Big finger. But,
I agree. Like, we usually make fun of the ACC title game, but because it's usually Clemson favored by like 5 touchdowns, it's actually a competitive, interesting game this year. So I agree. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, because when's the next time I don't think Wake Forest is going to be a traditional leaderboard on the ACC standing. So, we could all look back and be like, remember when it was Pitt, Wake Forest in the title game on a Saturday night, wherever they play, where the Panthers are or whatever? But I'm going to be into it. Why not? Because it's very atypical from a now, the opposite of atypical is Oregon, Utah. I feel like, I'm hoping, Dave, there's more juice in that Vegas stadium than Santa Clara. But I thought about this, and you guys can agree too. Like, the Pac-12, like, alumni, like, they're not going to go out of their way to go to, like, a Pac-12 championship game. Whereas, like, people in the SEC and the Big 12, like, they're going to make it, like, a pre-Christmas trip or whatever to go to their title game. Pac-12 alumni, Dave, like, I don't know, they're all over the country. They're not going to go out of their way to go to Vegas and watch their old school, like, play in a Pac-12 championship game.
No, sad reality. But I mean, listen, like, I don't even know if I would do that. If my team wasn't in it, I probably wouldn't go all the way out of my way to watch it. So it might be a little bit of an easier sell with Vegas as opposed to Santa Clara. I mean, It's a nice area, but it's just that stadium is just so boring. Like, Niner fans have talked about it.
It's so. Yeah. I mean, it is nice out there, but I don't know. There's like no ambiance. There's no like the acoustics aren't very good.
Yeah. No. All right, so fellas, I'm gonna propose this idea. So here's the thing. This is a fun idea I had. We're talking about parlays and everything else. So my question is, if you were to take the odds of the futures odds, right? So you have Michigan at 8-1 to win. You have Alabama at 6-1, and then Georgia's like giving 225. So it's a huge favorite to win the national championship, which makes sense. It makes sense. Like no one's touched them. But if wouldn't it be interesting if you put a unit down on Bama to win the title? Because if for whatever reason they won the game, suddenly would they not be the favorite to win the championship at that point? What do you think? So you would bet on Georgia to cover, because like I was saying earlier, I feel like Georgia's either going to win by 30 or they're going to lose. I don't feel like they're going to win by 2. So if they don't do it, then it's kind of like there's a real chance that maybe you get a good return on it. There's still risk involved, of course, because in the playoff rounds you don't know. But how would you play that? Like, would you just put it out there just as a feeler, like a potential, like half a unit on Bama to win at 6-1? Because Saban as a coach in a big spot seems like a good spot.
So you mean to win the entire like?
The whole thing. Yeah, the whole thing. Yep. Like a futures bet.
Well, I mean, they'd have to beat Georgia again, I'm guessing, because Georgia's not going to drop out of the 4.
Really?
If they lose.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
Georgia's in no matter what. They would drop like from 1 to 4.
Oh, that's a good point. Okay.
Guess. So
that's a good point.
I don't know if I could see them beating them twice.
Yeah.
I would. If you think. See, I don't know. That's a tough call. Like,
yeah.
If you like, I would just rather just bet Bama for the money line for this game rather than for the.
That's true. That's true. Yeah, that's true. And I think
that would be my feeling, because they would have, like I said, they have to beat Georgia twice. Unless you think they can, then go for it. But that would be my call on that.
Let me see what the money line is. Hold on, let me see. It's probably like
probably like 220.
That's not bad. Yeah. So it's kind of like it works too. Yeah, I see 200. Okay, so you would take Georgia giving 6.5. So you either break even or you win a unit in that scenario. The only way you lose is if if Georgia were to win by 6 points or less. So that might be one way to approach that. I don't know if that's necessarily good strategy, but that would be one way to approach it. Absolutely. So, okay. I completely forgot about that idea that Georgia could just stay in the playoff. I didn't think of that. Okay, so never mind.
Yeah, Georgia could lose 35-0. They're still getting in the playoff.
Yeah. Very good.
They're the only lock, I think, at this point. The rest of the teams could still, in the 4, could still be out, but Georgia's in for sure. Yeah, good call. Okay, so never mind. It was well spirited, but not a good idea. Okay, so let's go to the what are we doing? We're doing the picks, I guess, at this point. So yes, let's go to the picks. It's gonna be a fun weekend. So folks, I cannot wait to see what your picks are. And John, we'll start with you with the conference championship round. Let's go to you now, John. Let's get your picks for the conference championship weekend. All right, Dave. Very excited for this weekend. So we're going to start off, like you said, Friday night. We're going to take Western Kentucky -3 at UTSA. Actually, the last loss for Western Kentucky was against UTSA at home. It was a very, very competitive game, a high-scoring game. You expect the same thing this time. The difference since then is the Western Kentucky defense was like absolutely horrendous, one of the worst in the country to that point. Since then, they've been just kind of average, which is fine. If they give up 25 a game, it doesn't matter. 30 a game, it honestly doesn't matter, because they have like the most dynamic passing game in the country. We talked about it before. Bailey Zappi has like 50 touchdowns this year, and their offense is just on a complete roll. They've scored 45 or 50 points in every game in that winning streak since the game against UTSA. They're playing just tremendous football. UTSA's defense is not great. They're not going to be able to stop anything that Bailey Zappi in that attack throws at them. We love the UTSA program. We've been on them all year, but they've been kind of leaking oil here at the end of the year. They just had a miserable game at North Texas. Now, again, the game didn't mean anything, so, you can kind of give them a little bit of a pass, but they did not really play well. Before that, they barely escaped UAB. They should have lost that game. Before then, they struggled with a Southern Miss team that was just running the Wildcat the entire game. They only won that game by it was like a touchdown, and it was nip and tuck the entire way. They were even behind in the second half. So they've been kind of sneaking, kind of getting away with some close wins. Maybe their record's a little bit inflated, but this Western Kentucky team is just absolutely rolling, and I don't see how UTSA is going to stop their offense. And you can just see by the line movement in this game. I mean, it's just crazy. An 11-1 team who beat Western Kentucky earlier in the year is now a 3-point underdog at home to a 7-5 team in the conference championship. So it's just, I think they're 8-4. Western Kentucky. They started off, I believe, 1-4. They've won their last 7 games. So, and I do think they're going to win on Friday night. But it should be a good game. A lot of points. Western Kentucky and the over would be my play. So officially, Western Kentucky -3 for pick number 1. And then for my second game, I completely agree with Andy. Give me Iowa plus 10.5. I mean, how could you not another thing that I kind of correlate. High spread and extremely low total. It's 10.5. The over under is 43.5. I mean, it's just crazy. So this game is just going to be really ugly. Ferenc knows how to get down and dirty with these games like nobody really. Their defense is fantastic. Michigan's offense really isn't explosive. I mean, they're very efficient for sure, but Iowa's not going to give them anything in terms of big plays. So they're going to force them to grind out the clock and go down the field, and that's going to take time off. They could get a few stops in the red zone. This is just going to be a very close game. And I hate to say that Michigan is going to have a letdown, but let's be real. That was one of the biggest wins in, I would say, almost school history, really, after losing to Ohio State for so many years and finally getting the monkey off their back and getting to number 2 in the country. I know they're playing for the college football playoff, but I could see them coming up flat in this game. Even with everything on the line. And Iowa's offense is certainly nothing to write home about. I mean, they're bad, but I think they can do enough to score 14 points, and that should be enough to cover. I think I can see this being like a 20-14 kind of game. Iowa, even with a chance to win it late, if things go their way. So as long as there's no stupid turnovers or anything like that, I think Iowa will stay within this number. So, and the half is huge. So we'll go with Western Kentucky -3 and Iowa plus 10.5 are the conference championship weekend picks.
Well, in the end, I do hope you're right about the Iowa game, because then that would be a good game. It'd be a close game, so we'll see how that goes. But look, you guys, much respect to you both. I mean, clearly, my interpretation of this game probably is not as well founded as yours. I certainly feel, because the beginning of the year, Michigan looked they were whatever. So I might be utilizing some recency bias. So good luck. Absolutely. Hopefully it works out. So let's go to Andy. Let's get your picks for the conference championship weekend.
Yeah, checker on a checker with John game 1, or his game 2, my game 1. I'm Iowa, but I also love his analysis on the Western Kentucky UTSA game as well. But just keeping it simple with Iowa, I think. Michigan, if it is possible to have a letdown game, it's there. They just beat Ohio State, and I know they have everything to play for this weekend. But like I said, with Iowa, they have the best, one of the best muckability teams in the country. They're not fun to watch. They're certainly not fun to play against. And Dave, when we were there in LA watching that Penn State game, it was disgusting to watch.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah. Like I said, they create turnovers. They block punts. They just do all sorts of dirty, gross, weird things. And as John mentioned, it's not like Michigan is going to go, bink, 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 explosive offense. It's going to be methodical. And they can be methodical. they could run it down Iowa's throats if they can. But if Iowa can hold them to, field goals, 30-yard field goals, 27-yard field goals, 35-yard field goals, they can block a punt, they can get a couple turnovers, they're going to cover. They might win outright. So game number 1, give me Iowa getting 10.5. In game number 2, I'm going to take Utah State in the Mountain West game, getting 5.5 from San Diego State. Seeing nothing of that game against Boise State, I'm guessing, maybe that comeback took a lot out of them. Listen, I like San Diego State. I like the kicker. I like the coach. I don't think their quarterbacks are very good, but they don't win because of the quarterbacks. They win because of their running game and their defense and the punting, if you can believe it. But, it's a weird game. It's a weird conference. Not a lot of people are going to be going out of their way to watch the Mountain West championship game, but we're going to bet on it. And we don't, John and Ron talked about Utah State throughout the year and how their coach, wasn't in the greatest situation, but has kind of turned that program around rather quickly because the other Anderson guy, who had been there a couple times already, kind of just left that program in a lurch. I don't think they had a very good COVID year last year. I think Gary Anderson just quit on them. I forget the details, but Utah State's had a surprising year. Started out, upsetting Washington State week 1, and they've done nothing but kind of cover and just hang around in that Mountain West Conference. And it's great not to see Boise State in the title game. So I wanna soak this in on a Boise State free Mountain West championship game. I want to be tuned in and invested, and so give me Utah State plus 5.5.
Super cool, Andy. Thank you for the picks. All right, we'll see what happens on the Mountain West game too. So we go to the Ron's picks next, and here they come. Here we go. So we're gonna go with these two from Ron in New Jersey, sent via the text. So a good matchup in the AACC championship game. It looks like one that could have a lot of points too. Wake Forest against NC State. Ron is going to go with the underdog, Wake getting 3.5 points in this championship game. Game number 1. Game number 2, he's not going to fool around with this. He's going to take Georgia, giving 6.5 against Alabama for the SEC championship. That is going to be a really fascinating game. And so for the picks, Ron has Wake Forest plus 3.5 and Georgia minus 6.5 for the conference championship weekend. All right, now up to my picks. The first one I love. The second one I don't love. I'll be honest. But let's just see. Let's see if this has anything for us. Okay, game number 1. Let's see. Game number 1. Okay, game number 1. Yeah. I'm big on this. Here's I'm gonna go with Baylor getting 5.5 against Oklahoma State in the Big 12 championship game. Very similar principle to what John was talking about with Michigan having a huge letdown after beating their rival after a long time not beating their rival. So it's a good principle to utilize. And I also thought Baylor was just a good team anyway. I think they've been playing well. Dave Aranda is the real deal. Looks like his coaching ability is great. So I think it's good value. I'm going to take Baylor. I think they're going to win. So game number 1. Game number 2. And, this is why I'm so happy to do these shows with you guys. Because, man, if it weren't for you guys, I would be so lost in all these games. But nevertheless, I'm going to stay with my pick. And I'm going to take the Tide, getting 6.5. I mean, obviously, if I did that whole segment about it, I felt good about Alabama on some level against Georgia. And it amounts to this. We all talked about it. What's going to happen when somebody punches Georgia in the mouth? I just think they're going to respond very poorly if that happens. So I'm betting on the possibility. It's very possible it doesn't happen at all, and they lose by 30 points. It's happened all year. But if they do trip up for whatever reason, if there's a fumble, if there's a sack, if somebody gets hurt and a key player gets hurt early, if there's a missed field goal that they should have made, if they cross the goal line, it gets fumbled, it goes in the end zone. You know, so many things could happen in a tight game like that. What do they do to deal with the pressure? I think Alabama's more equipped to handle that scenario than Georgia. So it's merely playing a hunch, but I'm going to take a chance on it. We're going to go Alabama getting 6.5 to go with the Baylor Bears getting 5.5 conference championship weekend. All right. So yeah, let's go to Mike in North Jersey to round us out tonight. And here are his picks. Here we go. Mike has these from conference championship Saturday and Friday too, I think, just technically speaking. But oh, good thing I said that. The first game is Utah giving 2.5 in the Pac-12 championship on Friday. All right. So that's game number 1. Game number 2, Mike is going to go checker on a checker with my pick. If you can believe it, he's going to go with Alabama as well, getting 6.5 against Georgia for the SEC championship game. Folks, time will tell. Time will tell.
Well, you got to look. I mean, if there was a fiddle of college pigskin, you could tell us the last time Saban's been a 6.5 point dog.
It's been a long time, folks.
Long time.
So it's just very interesting to play it. So the good thing is that there'll be other games too. So those are the picks for Mike in North Jersey. And fellas, it's been fun again. It's been fun. This will be a good time. Last thing I'm going to ask if before I go, I'm going to be in Denver for the weekend. I'm going to finally see my friend Coach, who I hadn't seen in a long time. But in Denver, I can place bets on the Sportsbook app, part of the FanDuel app. So would any of you be interested in some futures bets? Let me know, and you can just like DM me, and you can Venmo me if you want. But are there any futures bets that are coming to mind like in the near future? Whether it's college football, I don't know, NFL playoffs, college basketball. I don't know. Let me know. But I'll give it to you for final thoughts. John, we'll go to you first.
Yeah, I cannot wait for the slate of college action. Much more excited for that than the NFL this weekend for sure.
Yeah.
So it should be some great games there, and then we'll have the bowl matchups announced on Sunday. So that'll be fun to kind of go through those and start thinking about your confidence pools, and I just can't wait for that. So a good weekend with the college scenario. It's funny, like Dave, remember when we did our August shows and we were like, oh man, it's gonna be another year of Alabama and Clemson and Ohio State and Oklahoma.
That's true.
Well, guess what? we've got none of them. Well, Alabama is barely hanging on, but we can get them out of there, and it'll be such a refreshing.
Oh, I love it.
College football playoff.
I love
this
that
year. So we definitely are excited about that. It's been a great season.
Yeah.
So I can't wait for the games, and I hope everyone has a profitable weekend coming up.
Thanks for that, John. And likewise for you. The only thing that's unfortunate is that it's possible that Georgia just steamrolls everybody in the playoff. But other than that,
honestly, that's fine at this point.
Yeah.
Like even watching a semifinal like Cincinnati and Michigan, that'd be so much fun to watch that.
Yeah.
Instead of, like the usual crap that we get like on for the Clemson and Ohio State for the 1,000th time.
Right.
Like, no, we got something new this year, which is good.
That's true. It's nice to see a different team win, even if even in dominant fashion, because Georgia hadn't won a championship since 1980. That's a long time ago. So, Andy, let's give it to you for final thoughts.
Yeah, 3 quick hitters. Number 1, the Tiger Woods event in the Bahamas will be into tomorrow. I don't know who to take. Rory, I think, is like plus 650, but I'm going to take someone not named Rory.
I'll jump in. I took Scheffler 16-1. So there we go. Because
it's probably going to be windy. Texas guys like the wind. I can see that. And they'll probably have a TV set up for that on Sunday. A little monitor for that. Point number 2, piggyback on John Bull season. We'll get the list of that probably, Sunday when all the invites are established. Obviously, it's going to be disappointing when all these people are going to be like dropping out and stuff. It's another wrinkle that we'll need to take in consideration with the confidence, but we're going to bet on it. We're going to gamble on it. And we hope to be successful. And point number 3, I can't believe Hawaii beat Wyoming in the cold, like completely out of their element. I mean, Wyoming must have just not shown up. I know they're 6-6. They're going to go a bowl game, but I wonder if there'll be enough bowls to go around for the 6-7 Hawaii Warriors to get a bowl.
I'll jump in for one more point. I did see that there will be one 6-6 team left out. There's enough spots for everybody except for one 6-6 team. So some poor Conference USA or MAC team will be home for the holidays, unfortunately. I wish they could create one extra bowl just for that one team to get in, but alas. So we'll see.
So like I read that like some of these teams that are like 6-6, they have to really like look, if you're like breaking down like a statement, they need to look some of these wins if they're playing at like a FCS school that like has like a lower threshold of scholarship players, like it doesn't count as a win. So like they're gonna really have to like lift these teams' hoods to see what's going on.
Yeah, that's crazy. I didn't hear anything about that, but I could see why. Like if they're parsing through who's gonna get those final spots, maybe that's the deciding factor.
I think they use like BC as an example. Like BC like beat Colgate, but Colgate like they only had like 50.2% players on scholarship, so it was like might not count as a win. I don't know, but that's like
I think at the end of the day, like the ones at least owned by ESPN, they just like mix and match who they think will be a good ratings thing or a good matchup on paper anyway. I think that's at least for those anyway. The privately owned bowls, we'll see what happens. But yeah, one team will be out in the cold this year. It's going to be like Old Dominion or someone like that, like the 6-6.
I can see that. Someone from the CUSA or the MAC.
Yeah, all the SEC and like all the big teams are going to get a spot somewhere. So we'll see what the matchups look like. I can't wait to there's going to be some ugly ones this year. I know there's a lot of 6-6 teams.
BC Maryland, I can just see that.
Oh my gosh, that's going down.
That bowl in Detroit, the Quick Lane Bowl or the Motor City Bowl or whatever the hell it's called now. It's always played at like 11 a.m. on like a Monday afternoon. It's going to be BC and Maryland.
Oh my God!
We'll be betting it. So
yes, we will.
You know it. You know it, buddy. What was I gonna just? I love that. So let me ask you this: like, where do you see some of these teams? Oh, the thing I was gonna say is that the good thing about us doing this contest for for 19 weeks is that we don't have to we don't have to shoehorn all the bowls into 1 week anymore. We can actually spread it out. So just so you know, like we can do 2 bowl. Every week when we have bowl weeks, do 2 bowls, and we can do that for like the rest of the month.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah.
The more bowl picks we can get in, the better.
Yeah.
Policy.
I just thought of that. Like this is we should take advantage of that. Like this will be a really good opportunity. So So the question I was gonna say, in addition, where do you see Notre Dame? I don't think they make the playoff at this point unless Cincinnati just throws up a bomb. Where do you see Cincinnati? Where do you see Bama? Assuming that they do lose to Georgia, like where would they all end up going?
Well, I mean, if Bama's out, so we're going to assume Georgia wins. Assuming Georgia wins, Michigan wins. I know we picked Iowa to cover the spread, but let's just say Michigan wins just for the sake of argument. Mm-hmm. Cincinnati wins. Well, then you got one spot left. If Oklahoma State probably, if they win, but if they lose, I mean, I almost want to see them have to put in Notre Dame because of that jackass chairman that came on there last night and was talking about how, we're going to take into account if Brian Kelly isn't there, like going to completely punish those kids, for, because Kelly is a greedy prick and wanted to go to LSU and like leave his team like that. Like that would be such nonsense. But the way he was talking, they would be out, unfortunately. So at that point, I mean, I don't know. I would say if Oklahoma State wins, they're in for sure. But if they lose, maybe Baylor gets back in the mix. Honestly, at that point, I honestly have no clue who they would take. So I just hope it ends up, Bama's out, Oklahoma State wins, the favorites win, and then you'll have like Georgia, Oklahoma State, and then Cincinnati, Michigan would be your semifinals at that point.
So interesting. Andy, any other thoughts you want to add to quick hit that?
I'm kind of rooting for chaos.
Yeah.
I want Cincinnati to be in it. It'd be funny if Notre Dame by default. You would need you need Baylor to win, you need Iowa to win, you need Georgia to win, and then you'd have some muck.
That's
some legit muck.
Bigly muck. Yeah. All right. Well,
Notre Dame, they'll get a New Year's Six bowl one way or the other.
Yeah. Too many wins. I agree.
But I wonder who it would be against. We could see they'd probably do a Notre Dame Alabama, I don't know, it'd be a Sugar Bowl or something like that. But then you have to question the motivation.
Yeah, the conference tie-ins still apply for the Rose Bowl, so that's going to be. I mean, we're going to assume Michigan wins, so the next highest Big Ten team is probably still going to be Ohio State. So it'll probably be Ohio State and say whatever Utah or Oregon for the Rose Bowl
rematch.
Yeah, right, exactly. The Sugar Bowl is, I believe, still is that the playoff this year? The Sugar Bowl? I'm not sure.
I think it might.
No, it's not. It is not the Sugar, because that would be on January 1st, and it's on the 31st this year. So it is not the playoff. So that's still the Big 12 and SEC. So that's probably the Big 12 loser in Ole Miss, I would guess. Then you have there's the Peach is probably there's one bowl that's two at-large teams. So the two highest ranked after that. So Notre Dame and I don't know, maybe Michigan State slips in there, which would be kind of gross at that point, but they're pretty high. So, and then the Orange Bowl is the ACC winner against again another highly rated team. So you could see Pitt against I don't know, Pitt against Iowa maybe. Ugh, that's gross. That's pretty ugly. I don't know.
I remember that Orange Bowl, Florida, Virginia, for a couple of years ago. It was so cool.
Oh yeah, yep, exactly.
Yeah.
So we'll maybe Bama would be in that Orange Bowl again. Oh my God, Bama against Pitt. Ugh, they can't do that.
You take Pitt, Alabama never covers those games.
No, absolutely not.
The Outback Bowl, that kind of thing.
Yeah, one of Alabama, Utah.
Yeah, I'd probably take Utah that spot if it was those two.
For them.
Oh, you're talking about back in the day, when Urban Meyer was coaching Utah, way back when?
No, it was Whittingham. It was when Alabama, when they're 10-2 and.
Oh, okay.
They're not in the playoff.
Yeah. I saw Oklahoma do that too. I think they beat them outright, if I remember. Or was it Oklahoma? No, I think that's right. I think that's what I remember. So yeah, watch out for that too. Yeah, that's gonna be a fun topic when we get to the the bowl previews. When we get to that, in a week or so, that'll be a topic. Well, who's motivated to win? Who will opt out? Stuff like that. So, all right, guys. Well,
I did see the first bowl was announced already because they have to do the whole passport scenario. So the Bahamas. So it's going to be Toledo and Middle Tennessee State in the Bahamas.
Oh yes!
Kick us off in bowl season. So start your research already for that game.
Bet the over, man. That sounds like a fun one.
Bowl. I mean, it's not a great bowl. I mean, that's just degenerates.
Oh yeah, it's probably 1:00 in the afternoon too. So sign me up for a half day from work and go to the bar and get some Bahamas Bowl action on. Can't get any better than that.
Nice.
Yeah, I love the Bahama Bowl, the Boca Raton Bowl. Unless that's still around. I don't know if that's around. I hope it's still around. But.
With it. All right, guys. Well, good luck tonight. Good luck this week. I'm hoping for some ham. I hope we all do well in these picks. This will be a really fun weekend. So, take care. I'll send my best from Denver once I get there. But take care, and hopefully we'll do it again next week. And good luck, everybody. Take care.
All right. Thanks for having us.
Sounds good.
Got it.
Good luck, everyone.
See ya. Take care.
Peace.
Well, that's it for Andy and John. Good show today. It was really fun. Hope you all enjoyed it. That was we really did a lot in this particular edition of the show. So hope you enjoyed it too. If you missed any of it, you can check our replay here on YouTube, or if you're listening on the podcast, you can check all our replays for other episodes as well. Because if you're listening to the podcast, you can rewind it. But if you missed any of our other shows, you can check those out on our podcast feed, Dave in the City Out West, or go to DITCOW.com for all the latest episodes and past episodes, going all the way back to the very beginning in 2009. So until then, good luck, everyone. I'm Dave Medina. Please have a good rest of your evening, and we hope you've enjoyed it. And we'd love to hear from you. If you want to reach out to us, we're on Twitter at DITCOW, and you can also comment to us in comments on the website, if you can believe it. Have a good rest of your week. Enjoy the conference championships and the NFL weekend. We'll see you next time.